Like that was the whole argument. And there was no sense that there needed to be any further explanation after that. Like that's it. Like that's enough reason that we're going to take her out. And it shows how quickly that was resonating in that community, that there wasn't in the messages that were circulated, there was no sense that you needed more than that. Like Ilhan Omar, she likes Ilhan Omar. Ilhan Omar likes her. Rashida Tlaib likes her. She cannot go to Congress.
So AIPAC has decided to go, or it made a sort of a public announcement. They're going after anyone who voices opposition, even in the slightest, even if they vote for everything that you want, they're going after them with $100 million campaign. So now in our spaces, we cover this, and Nick even did a video of this, but in our spaces, it just doesn't land the same way, Keaton and Kit, as it does in progressive spaces. Like, this is gigantic for them. This is humongous for them. And you know, it's just, imagine your worst nemesis, you hearing, oh, they're taking steroids now. What?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, so that's the effect that is happening in the progressive Democrat sort of community. Can any of you speak to that, or could either of you speak to that? Do you notice, like, have you been watching content? I don't know if you watch other content, but like, I watch other progressive content or other content from progressives, and man, this is really landing. Like I've seen maybe 5 segments on each platform, so it's really something that's landing hard in their community. But I'll start with Kit and then go with Keaton. Have you heard about any of this or heard anything like this?
Well, wait, I'm sorry, you kind of broke out just a little bit. Can you repeat the first question again?
I was wondering if you and Keaton had been hearing sort of the same thing, or have the same sort of feeling that I'm having, that the news of AIPAC sort of doubling down or reinvesting in opposition to some of the progressive people, it kind of lands harder in the progressive community. And I'm wondering if you sort of get the same sort of feeling. Have you seen the same thing?
I think in comparison towards what we've seen earlier on, like if we want to go way back to the early 2000s, I've never seen it this aggressive before, because, you know, when we see reports of the media now, or is it at those who are ignoring the 14,000 dead Palestinians in Gaza, and anyone that's trying to bring it up, it's automatically dismissed as though it's fake news. And any progressive channel that is talking about it is hit harder than I've ever seen before. I've noticed that the censorship has intensified more so. And, you know, I'm surprised a lot of our channels are, you know, knock on wood, you know, still up on YouTube, you know, knocking on some wood right here, because we all have kind of called out more or less what's happening with the bombings in Gaza. If you're not seeing it, I mean, I've witnessed it. I've seen it. I've seen a lot of the pushback, especially on social media. And already, what have we seen already? Elon Musk visiting or having a tour with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. You know, okay, what does that mean in the long run then for all of us who use Twitter or any other social media platform? I mean, this isn't the first time we've seen anything like this, but it's so blatantly out there. I'm concerned about it. Keaton, take it away.
Yeah, what do you think, Keaton?
Well, I mean, in particularly, a guy like Ryan Grimm obviously has that book on the squad out right now. So this is really interesting timing for him. This is certainly existential. There might not be a sequel at this rate.
Right.
You know, if AIPAC has their way, he's going to have to find something else to write about, possibly. Just a few things on this. It shows just how bloodthirsty the Israel lobby is. I mean, when Pramila Jayapal, this was before October 7th, when she called Israel a racist state, I think this was August or September, and then she got browbeaten by Hakeem Jeffries, into taking that back. And then the House called a vote in response to her statement to affirm that Israel is not a racist state. And she ended up voting to call it not a racist state, along with 400 and some odd other members of the House. So when you talk about the targets of the Israel lobby now, you're talking about the Squad and a couple others. You're talking about 7 or 8 members. They have almost unanimous support in Congress, and it just shows what a flex this is, that they are willing to spend $100 million to go after the less than a dozen dissenters in the House. They will settle for nothing less than technical and absolute unanimous support for the Israeli state, no matter what. So that's one thing. This is very high stakes for progressives, and I think when CJ you're talking about progressives, you mean like Majority Report TYT kind of like squad invested progressives, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I could imagine, since October 7th, this job of doing this, 3 or 4 times a week, it's never been more difficult. It's never been more difficult emotionally. It's never been more difficult technically. Just the task of keeping up with all of the news. And obviously, it takes a toll on you seeing all this death and carnage and horror every day. Because of the difficult task of keeping up with things, I just haven't been watching much of bullshit progressive media. Like, I don't really have time for Sam Cedar nowadays. He's just not high on my list of priorities right now. But I would imagine that, yes, all of these progressive outlets who are invested in the Squad are probably very concerned about this because, look, the Israel lobby is very, very powerful. They're very well funded. And some of these Squad members are more vulnerable than others. So I won't go case by case because we don't want to be here all night on the first segment. But like AOC, I think, is pretty safe. I think she has the name ID to, hold her seat. Rashida Tlaib is very popular in her district, and it's a largely Muslim district. So I don't think AIPAC's money is going to mean a hell of a lot there. I think she'll be fine. Ilhan Omar could not be fine. Ilhan Omar almost lost her primary in 2022. Mm-hmm. That was an underreported story. Not a lot of people caught that. Yeah. That was based on the crime issue. She came within 4 or 5 points of losing a primary last time, so she could be vulnerable. Jamal Bowman could be vulnerable. Yes. He represents Westchester County, which is a very, very largely Jewish county. And not that there isn't a progressive base in Yonkers and the Bronx and stuff, but there's a large Jewish vote there that could be swayed by the Israel lobby. And so he might be vulnerable as well. So when you look at it case by case, some of them are safe, some of them have nothing to worry about, but some of them do. And if you're invested in the project of building out the Squad, then yeah, this is definitely a time where you're going to be pretty concerned.
And I would think, and I'll get right back to the video here. Sorry, guys. I was going to play it, but after you said that, I would think that that applies to most of the Bernie Sanders industrial complex that is in the media. Yeah. Because just think about it. If you were to take away AOC, my God, if you were to take away AOC, that lightning rod, what would their channels look like? Just monetary, if they're looking at it. That way, I'll let both of you respond to that. But let's listen to a little more. That. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, okay. So let's say AOC or any of the Squad were to be removed, or either that majority were to get removed. It would be irrelevant because a lot of those channels that promoted AOC and the Squad, they don't even show up on those channels anymore. TYT, when's the last time TYT is at AOC or any of the other Squad members on? Because they can't report on them, and not to mention the same people that TYT, the outlet that made the Squad what it is, the Squad doesn't even respect them anymore. They don't even show up on that platform. TYT's time in the sun has long since passed. So it'd be irrelevant. I mean, if there might have been a point to where if TYT was smarter building its infrastructure and maybe holding the politicians accountable who they had in the Justice Democrats, we'd have a different conversation. But no, all what they could see was the dollars and suckering in people to helping them build up a movement that went nowhere.
Touche. That is a great point. Now I wanted to start with this. Steve, we're warming up to the Jabal Bowman video. I promise it's not going to be too long of a segment. But there's a couple of videos I do want to play. Now, this was added last minute. I was just going to play the other 2 videos that I have, and then I saw this. I was like, wow. I was like, what? Because, like I said, this hits a lot harder in this community. But if you listen to what he's saying here, is that they're going to be coming in with money, and a person like Nina Turner. Listen to what. Let me just go back just a little bit so we can listen to what sort of things they were doing towards her. Let me know if you want to stop. I can't see, just so give me a verbal cue.
So
here.
May 2021, to put the timeline on there, is when one of the previous Gaza wars begins. And so that played a huge role because it also kind of galvanized the Jewish vote, Jewish pro-Israel vote in that particular district. And there was this extremely impressive kind of organizing campaign in neighborhoods in the district that saw turnout in the primary exceed average turnout in the rest of the district by something like 10 times, like just absolutely blew it out of the water. And a lot of Republicans and independents, switched because in that primary they were able to switch. And
they were openly advocating for people to do so, calling around and saying, we've just got to stop Nina Turner.
And they would say,
Israel.
She's endorsed. Yeah. The evidence for why you had to block Nina Turner is that she's endorsed by Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib, and she says that she'll be a member of the squad. Like that. That was. Like that was.
Let me pause it here because we have to make sure we're listening from the right framing. This is your own team, Keaton and Kit. This is not an opponent on an opposite team strategizing against you. This is your own team. So it begs the question, how is it, even to the two people that are on screen, to a lesser degree, Bree, because she's a Green Party voter, although she's open to at least having a conversation about voting for Democrats. Not herself, but just the general conversation.
Right.
Ryan is totally in on it. But again, I just thought that was a unique point to bring up. If any of you wanted to comment, please do.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's making a point there that kind of, fits his narrative, which is that, the Democratic Party on a whole is reformable. I mean, he's simplifying things an awful lot there by saying this only had to do with the fact that there was a Gaza war in May of 2021, which there was. I remember covering that on our audio show. That was before we were on YouTube or anything like that. But I do remember that. And I'm sure that was an issue. I'm sure that was a motivating factor for Democrats in that district, particularly, more PMC-aligned establishment Democrats who are very, very pro-Israel. I'm not saying he's wrong entirely and that wasn't a factor. But he's trying to make it sound now, in hindsight, that was the motivating factor, when obviously the motivating factor in that election was keeping Nina Turner out for a whole host of reasons. Shontel Brown is the DNC's puppet who they wanted in that seat. You had Hillary Clinton come out and endorse Shontel Brown. You had James Clyburn come out and endorse Shontel Brown. So there were dozens of reasons why the Democrats pulled out all the stops to block Nina Turner. I think he's kind of cherry picking this one issue and calling it a make or break when it really wasn't.
Can I also add in here something?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I don't mean to interrupt you, but look, I remember not once but twice when Nina Turner was running for that position in Congress. And the second time that it really stood out the most was when AOC waited at the last minute to endorse Nina Turner, right, as did all the other squad. And I remember, I don't know if Due Dissidents got any pushback. I know, but Hardlands Media and RBN and Jimmy Dore, we definitely got pushback because we were telling Nina Turner, why are you running in a party that doesn't respect you? So Ryan Grimm here is acting like, oh, Jesus, maybe I shouldn't have stuck a fork in the electrical socket. Like, no doubt. Are you coming to terms and realizing that, gee, maybe it was a huge waste of time from 2018 onwards? Now, look, I actually had some hope that maybe the Democratic Party could be reformed, but I was quickly educated and saw how much of a foolish idea that was. There's no reforming the Democratic Party, and any one of us that raised the alarm was vilified. We were called racist. We were called internal racist. We were called sexist or misogynist, or that we didn't understand the bigger picture, or that we were secretly Trump supporters, or some other kind of way to smear us. We have been proven correct that it's a waste of time to run the Democratic Party because the Democratic Party is just as corrupt as the Republican Party. They just have a fancy neoliberal mask in which they can hide themselves. But where can they hide now? Everybody sees it. Everybody's talking about it. In 2020, everybody in the DNC and Vote Blue No Matter Who sphere kept on promoting that the Democrats were going to get things done, that they were going to follow through with their promises, that things were going to get better because America's soul was coming back. Well, nothing changed. It just got progressively worse. So we have been proven correct about the Democrats and anyone that carried the banner for the DNC. So what kind of bullying tactics are they going to use this time around? Because if anyone's foolish enough to waste their vote for the Democrats or any of these elections that the Democrats will be running in 2024, then you deserve to be called a fool and to be mocked, because all of us have been proven correct about calling out the utter hypocrisy. And how can people like Ryan Grimm still hold or have a leg to stand on to say, oh, well, gee, maybe this time around we could do this, or, oh, we should have saw this coming. No, we saw this happening years in advance already. So all this crap about, what happens if we lose a squad member? Big deal. World's smallest violin being played right here.
Yeah, it's
But
funny,
what-
I
Go
did
ahead,
see that
Keith.
coming. We did say that she shouldn't be running inside the Democratic Party back in, when was that? When did she declare? Was that early 2021? I guess, we said it. Not many people heard it because we were just a little audio podcast at the time. We had almost no real following, none on YouTube or like Twitter or anything. We were just audio podcast world. But it was obvious to me from the second she declared that she was going to lose. They would coalesce against her. It was very, very obvious. You could see coming from a mile away. Even when she was polling 40 points ahead, don't forget, she was polling ahead of Chantel Brown 50-15. She had a 35-point lead with 2 months to go. And the Democrat brass, Hillary Clinton, James Clyburn, the Israel lobby, they came in and they erased the 35-point lead in less than 2 months. That's how incorrigible the Democratic Party electorate is. That's why I say a huge part of the problem with the Democrats is the voters themselves. You cannot build a movement inside a party whose voters can just turn on a dime when they see a commercial telling you that James Clyburn says, no, not Nina Turner, Chantel Brown. What can you do? You can't work with people like that. You can't work with people like that.
Both of you are speaking to the point that I was trying to allude to, and then I went off on something else. But the point I was trying to get to was, the question becomes, why are you staying in this party? Why isn't this a trigger point to go, you know what? This is it. What? Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm talking about whether you're a person running, or whether you're Ryan, or whether you're Brianna, or whether you're Crystal, or all the other people, Sam Cedar, that are doing content on what AIPAC is about to do. They're about to target the people you want. Why isn't this galvanizing to leave the party? You know what I'm saying? Like, how do you then go, oh, those people who ran that ad, who lied about me and my family and said all this bad stuff about me, now I'm on their team and I'm supposed to do what? Hang out and be friendly. It's such a weird dynamic. Go ahead, kid.
Look, I might be overthinking this, and I'm willing to admit that I'm wrong on this, but for some reason, my mind is going into the evil territory of it's all about the dollars. Remember, 2016, the rise of Bernie Sanders, the Bernie Sanders complex, and everything that followed along with it. I mean, it went up in popularity with it. Everyone was earning their fair share of the pie. And so for a lot of these people who maybe wanted to reform the Democrats or still be associated with the Democrats, this is their way to earn a living. And now they're seeing that they themselves are being vilified by the same institution. It puts them in a really weird, messed up spot, because where do they go from here? It's either they play ball or they're no longer invited to the clubs to get the nice warm cookie and cool milk to wash it all down. So they're out. They're between a rock and a hard place. And, at the same time, too, I'm pretty sure somewhere out there in the ether, Jimmy Dore is probably laughing at all their asses because he told them, like, hey, this is going to happen. So there.
I
I could be wrong. I could be wrong, but
Look, it's gonna be interesting, not in terms of like, you know, guys like Ryan. I think they'll pretty much go down with the ship. Like, I'm not gonna hold out hope, you know, for any big revelation coming from him, but it's going to be interesting to see how some of these primaries go because, like I said, I think AOC is pretty safe. I think Rashida Tlaib is very safe. I think Ilhan Omar is in danger of losing her seat. I think Bowman is in danger of losing his seat too. Now, let's keep in mind 66% of Americans as of the last poll, and that was about, 6,000 dead children ago. So it's probably more than 66% want a ceasefire now. I would imagine 3/4 of the American people want a ceasefire now. So in districts that were progressive enough to elect people like Omar and Bowman, you have to think the people are still on the side of the Palestinians here and that they're not going to be swayed by this AIPAC influence.